I heard a family member say last night that Ma'Khia wasn't perfect, that she had her problems, but she didn't deserve this. I think it was her aunt. And that statement broke my heart, because what child at age 16 is perfect? But Black kids, brown kids, they don't have the ability to make mistakes, right? Or to go with the wrong crowd, or just to do something stupid like we've all done at age 16. Because it's the difference between life and death, literally, for Black and brown children. We saw it last week in Chicago with the killing of Adam Toledo, and now here in Columbus. And so my initial thoughts is I'm watching this, and now having seen the other 2 body camera videos that were released today, the taser was right on his belt. Why shoot to kill? You can assess the situation and recognize that these are teens, right? And so shooting center mass 4 times, right? There's a difference between 1 shot and 4 shots, and a shot to the chest and a shot to the leg, or a taser. That's what I mean when I've been saying all day, there was another way. And I refuse to go back and forth with people today that keep wanting to say, but the knife, but the knife. My response is, but her life. We saw Kyle Rittenhouse, 17 years old, cross state lines, armed with an AK rifle, kill 2 people, walk past law enforcement, and still be taken alive, and then can await his trial, is currently awaiting his trial. What about Dylan Roof? But for kids like Trayvon, for now, Ma'Khia, we don't get the same grace. My heart is just absolutely broken tonight.
It is certainly sad. Jasmine, your final comment.
I appreciate that. Again, I would just like to send my condolences to the family. But what I would say is that Black people are never allowed to have a weapon. They're never allowed to defend themselves. And they're never given the benefit of the doubt. And we see it time and time again. Like you mentioned earlier, we just passed the Stand Your Ground law. You do not have a duty to retreat. This young woman was clearly in distress and had clearly called for help and was defending herself. And I hope that our local elected officials will take action. But we have not seen anything significant, and we are immensely hampered by the FOP and the police contract. And so, again, I think the only way that we're going to see substantive change in the city of Columbus is that the Department of Justice comes to investigate.
Jasmine Ayers, Kyle Strickland, and Shayla Favors, I appreciate it. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Real quick to Scott Bolden, Monique Presley, and Robert Patillo, who joins us right now. What about that? We saw today Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, announced the DOJ is going to do an examination of the Minneapolis Police Department. We told you what happened right here in Columbus. 40 people shot since 2013. What about what she just said? Should there be an examination? Should Columbus, Ohio be saying to the Department of Justice, please come in to investigate our department?
With 40 deaths, absolutely. In fact, I think we got too many police departments in the country. If you looked at the number, it's like in the thousands, right? And the amount of money we give to them to militarize their police, whether it's a large community or small, they all need to go under review. I'll be honest with you, because it's going to take time to clean this up. You know, back to this shooting of this young girl, the witness that was there after he shot him, he said, what did you do that for? She's a child. You killed her? And what were the other police officers doing, the ones that were there already? Their guns weren't drawn either, Roland. They was kind of standing there and trying to assess the situation. There was a lot of arguing going on. And then the shooter came. in gun and badge and shot this young woman. So yes, they ought to be reviewed in Columbus and every other jurisdiction as well. Do a complete review of all of them and shut down some of these police departments because we got way too many of them.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. In Georgia, clergy from across the state, they have initiated a boycott against Home Depot. The group says the company has yet to speak out publicly against voter suppression laws passed by the Georgia legislature and signed into law by Governor Brian Kemp. The pastors also say Home Depot has refused to meet with them to discuss the issue and their demands. Home Depot did release a statement that says, quote, okay, guys, thank you. You got to pull a statement up. Thank you. We believe that all elections should be accessible, fair, and secure and support broad voter participation. We'll continue to work to ensure our associates, both in Georgia and across the country, have the information and resources to vote. Joining me now is the pastor of Transforming Faith Church and former CEO of DeKalb County, Lee May, who's with us. Also, Dr. Kendra King Moman, interim provost and vice president for academic affairs, Oglethorpe University. All right, certainly glad to have both of you on. So you have that statement there. Clearly, Pastor May, that is not enough.
Absolutely not enough, man. That's milquetoast, lukewarm at its best, and that's trying to play both sides of the fence. And you know, we have a faith. We say, look, we want you to be hot or cold. Just show us what side you're on. And by their silence and even tacit support, they're really showing us where they are. And I guess the disrespectful part of this is that they even refuse to have a conversation, to meet with us, to understand what our perspective really is. And that's just unsatisfactory. And so we launched this boycott just the other day, directed towards them. We support those who support us. And we're going to make our dollars talk for us and speak for us and speak for those we support and those we don't support.
Well, Dr. Kendra, first off, has Lowe's taken a position? And if they have, are you directing African Americans and those who want to support this boycott to go shop at Lowe's as opposed to Home Depot?
I think we should take our dollars everywhere that count. And that's just not for the African-American community. I think one of the things that Pastor Lee talked about are allies. And so I think for anyone who says they're an ally of the cause, then put your dollars where people and corporations are supporting the cause.
One of the things, Pastor May, in reading about Operation Breadbasket, Martin Depp's book, they laid out a strategy in terms of how they did that. And so what exactly is your strategy? You call for the boycott, but what's the plan? What are you doing? Are you going to be launching picket lines at various Home Depots across Georgia? What exactly how are you going to execute this boycott?
Well, the reality is we represent at our press conference the other day. We had a litany of pastors standing there with us, but we represent over 1,000 churches in Georgia. The bishop of the AME Church here in Georgia, Bishop Reginald Jackson, has really been the initiator, the catalyst for this. The AME Church is here. Bishop Thomas Brown of the CME Church, and we have so many others. The state bishop for the Full Gospel Fellowship Baptist Fellowship is a part of it as well. And we are continuing to spread through our congregations. Look, we're not going to spend money there. And it starts there. It starts there. We have different phases that we're looking to. We're going to be rolling out here soon, various aspects. Contractors, businesses who have, who shop at Home Depot as a part of their business. We're going to ask them to begin a transition away. Local municipalities, as you mentioned, I was a former CEO of DeKalb County. I know that DeKalb County and other counties and cities all across the state have POs, procurement, that they do with Home Depot as well. And so we're going to be rolling out strategically over the next coming weeks how people can participate. But it really just starts with our members asking them not to support Home Depot with their dollars. And we're not pointing them to... go ahead.
But the reason I'm specifically asking that is because, again, when I studied Dr. King and Reverend Jackson in Operation Breadbasket, successful boycotts happen because they are properly organized. They're not disorganized. And so if you're a black-owned construction company, if you are someone along those lines, you're going to go to, first of all, you got to go to a place that has supplies. And so if I'm looking at Home Depot, Lowe's is one of their biggest competitors. So what I'm asking, and so knowing that, what I'm saying is, do you know if Lowe's has taken a position in Georgia? And if so, are you then saying, hey, folks, if you have construction needs, don't go to Home Depot. We're boycotting them. Go over here. And if I'm African American and I roll up to a Home Depot, how do I even know there's a boycott? Am I going to see people? Are you going to be? That's what I'm saying. So I want to understand the mechanics of the boycott.
Absolutely. And that's a good question. So number one, you asked a few questions there. So we're not pointing people to Lowe's. We've started with companies here in Georgia who have headquarters or a major presence here as well in terms of our conversations. We're not pointing them to a competitor because, as you stated, if we've not sat down with them and considered their stances as well, they may not be better than Home Depot. But what we are telling people is to refrain from going to Home Depot. If you're a small business, I mean, there are small businesses that you can go to be a part of it. There's other options as well that are not Home Depot. The mechanics will continue to be fluid. Let's be clear. This boycott was called, and I'm a part of a group of pastors that called it, and then we'll continue to lay out what that looks like in terms of how we're communicating with them through social media, through our local, our particular websites with our churches, our social media pages as well, our email databases, and as well to just let people know that we are refraining from shopping with them until, we're asking Home Depot some specific things. So this boycott isn't intended to go on forever and ever. They can come to the table and sit down and have a conversation with us. And we have 4 points that we're asking them to. Number one, we're asking them to come out publicly in opposition to Senate Bill 202. That's the bill here in Georgia. Number two, we're asking them to come out in opposition of other bills around the country that are similar in nature to Senate Bill 202, which are suppressing the vote of Black and brown people. Texas, for example, I pulled up their bill that they're going through right now, and it's almost identical to the Georgia bill. We're asking them, number three, to support federal legislation that expands access to the ballot box and provides restrictions for those who seek to suppress the vote, like what you're seeing here and around the country. And then number four, finally, we're asking them to support litigation that will oppose these measures that have been brought forward here in Georgia, and then ultimately, if others are successful around the country. So those four things, we're intentionally telling them, these are the four things that we want, but let's sit down and have a conversation, because what we want from these corporations, we want them to put their government relations muscles in place. They're lobbyists. They all have lobbyists, internal and external, that they can do real work to oppose these measures and support those measures that will expand access to the ballot box.
Dr. Kendra, obviously, again, in order for it to be effective, I think about what Dr. King said on April 3rd, 1968, we must redistribute the pain. And so that has to be clear. It has to be decisive. And so speak to that again, the importance of organizing and how you also driving the messaging, how you getting the word out, because you have folks like Stacey Abrams who've said, no, we don't want companies boycotted. You got people who are following her. You got the whole brouhaha over the All-Star game. And so how do you deal with communicating to these congregations when you have conflicting messages coming from black leaders in Georgia?
Well, I think, Roland, that speaks to some of the issue here, right? In terms of just that there are myriad voices that represent the African-American community. And so if we go back to Dr. King, if we go back to Operation Breadbasket, if we even go back to what Mayor Hartsfield said in 1960, that Atlanta was a city too busy to hate, what we're seeing now in 2021 is that Atlanta, the state of Georgia, may have been the city, the state too busy to hate, but they're no longer exercising that. So I think people have to be clear. Again, when we look at this Senate Bill 202, for me, the issue is that it's supposed to be an election integrity bill, but there are lapses of integrity in this bill, which has cause for the boycott. So for me, if I was a part of this clergy coalition, which I am not, I would say, let's focus on the local issue before we expand out. Let's get a win there. Let's bring the Home Depot to the table and ask for some clear resolution, some clear, if you will, negotiating strategy around this initiative for the state of Georgia, then branch out there. I think the challenge, what makes this tricky, and Ryan Coogler said this, that they're not going to boycott Georgia in filming Black Panther 2 because it will hurt the very people that this bill is targeted against as well. So I think that, again, I respect what Pastor May is doing and those who are part of that. I'm a pastor as well. And so I have no bones about that. But I think from a strategy perspective, we have to start with the fact that all politics at the end of the day are local. That's where the greatest amount of change is going to happen. And again, when you look at this bill, when you look at why it emerged, this bill was reactionary because of the misinformation and the nomenclature that the state of Georgia was stolen by, quote unquote, Stacey Abrams leadership, which is just fundamentally not true. And so I think one of my biggest concerns about this boycott and even about this particular bill that was passed, for the unaware voter, for the unaware contractor, for the unaware clergy person, they may not know where to go precisely to get their information.
So Pastor May, you said something, you said, this is not intended to go on for forever. Well, what Home Depot says, we're not changing our position. And things that you want us to do, we're not going to do. What are you going to do?
Well, again, they're the deciding factor of that. And I'll give you a good example. You know, initially there were conversations about Coca-Cola and Delta. They immediately reached out after the public communication was that there was a plan or desire to possibly boycott there. Had a conversation, and there's something about, you know, sitting down in a room to have a conversation about what's going on. It never fails. You'll figure out that there are some commonalities there, some things that you can discuss that can bring you on to the same page as well. But Home Depot just refuses to even have the conversation, and it appears that they're following the political lead of the governor. While we were having our protest, our press conference rather, the governor tweeted out that the left-leaning Democrats will do anything to get their candidates elected. And my response to that was the governor just doesn't get it. And clearly Home Depot doesn't get it either. For us, this is an initiative that is led by pastors, right? Not politicians, not political parties or anything like that. These are pastors. We're all pastors. At our press conference, only pastors spoke in terms of prepared statements and all of that. If you want to be an ally and come along, that's great. But this is a position that we're taking. We believe it's the right way. And there's going to be a myriad of thoughts about it and people who agree or don't agree as well on both sides of that. We get it. We're not trying to force anyone. We're not even saying we're the absolute right way. It's the way that we're going, though. It's the way that these pastors, over 1,000 churches, and my response to those who say don't do this, then my response to them actually is, well, what is the solution? And if they have a solution that they're going down that route, fine. In Georgia, Senate Bill 202 is passed. It's law. It's been signed by the governor. He signed it in an unprecedented fashion immediately the day after. You never do that. And then, of course, we saw the picture that was painted above him with a room full of white men. So it said to us clearly, and let's be clear, we tried to meet with the governor, the Speaker of the House, the Lieutenant Governor, the Senate Majority Leader prior to the bill. They didn't want to meet. We met with one individual, the Senate Majority Leader, about it. And no one else even wanted to have the conversation. And so if you're not even going to talk to us, Home Depot, then this has to be our response where we're concerned. And the mechanics of it, I hear you, Roland. You're right. The mechanics of it have to really be laid out and be strategic about that. That's not rocket science. It's just getting us all on the same page. Absolutely. And we're rolling, we're operating through that and taking it phase by phase, in that will come. But that is our solution for this right now. Stacey Abrams, again, everyone has their kind of own agendas to a degree. All of our agendas, I believe, at least that names that we've been talking about, is to make sure that we have free and unfettered access to the ballot box. And suppressive Jim Crow kind of tactics that's been passed, we can't stand for that. I think we agree with that. But we might have some differences on how you get to the other side of that, and that's fine. But we're coming together as a coalition of pastors representing a whole lot of people and a whole lot of churches to get this done.
Kendra, final word.
Yeah, listen, let's be clear. This is sectarian politics at its best in terms of Senate Bill 202, right? There's discrimination in it. And here's the thing. While the entire bill is not discriminatory, if some of the bill is discriminatory, it is harming people. So there is work to be done in the state of Georgia, from the picture of the bill signing to the elected official that was arrested. We know that there's a division in this state. For me, my focus is how do we heal the divide and who do we work with, allies on both sides of the aisle, to make that a possibility. So that's what my hope is as we move forward.
All right, then. Well, I certainly appreciate both of you for being with us. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
Thank you.
You too.
All right, folks. Yesterday, we covered this. Convicted murderer Derek Chauvin. Let's stop. I need you to fix the prompter. So Keenan will have to edit this. And so here's what we're going to do. Let's fix the prompter. We're going to go through some of the other elements of the script. So let's just follow me with that. Just keep rolling, Anthony. Okay. Here we go. My God, y'all got to get this script straight. Chauvin is the second story after Columbus, not this North Carolina story. So why you got North Carolina story? It's still making sense. Chauvin, let's go. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Yesterday, we saw a former cop, Derek Chauvin, who killed George Floyd, escorted out of the courtroom in handcuffs. Well, this is his new photo. This is his mugshot right here. It was released today. Of course, he is at the Minnesota Correctional Facility, Oak Park Heights, in solitary confinement, because obviously he is a police officer for his safety. He'll be there until his June sentencing. Now, while prosecutors are pushing for the maximum sentence, Chauvin's time in prison will depend on several factors, including the fact that he has no prior criminal record. So we'll see exactly what's going to happen there. Now, remember, the 3 other officers are still facing charges: aiding and abetting second-degree murder and aiding and abetting second-degree manslaughter in the death of George Floyd. Their trial for those 3 officers will take place in August. As we said earlier, the Justice Department, they are launching a civil rights investigation into the Minneapolis Police Department. Chief Madaria Arredondo says he welcomes the investigation and pledges his department's full cooperation. Attorney General Merrick Garland says the investigation will look at all of the police department's processes and procedures.
Yesterday's verdict in the state criminal trial does not address potentially systemic policing issues in Minneapolis. Today, I am announcing that the Justice Department has opened a civil investigation to determine whether the Minneapolis Police Department engages in a pattern or practice of unconstitutional or unlawful policing. The new civil investigation is separate from and independent of the federal criminal investigation into the death of George Floyd that the Justice Department has previously announced. The investigation I am announcing today will assess whether the Minneapolis Police Department engages in a pattern or practice of using excessive force, including during protests. The investigation will also assess whether the MPD engages in discriminatory conduct and whether its treatment of those with behavioral health disabilities is unlawful. It will include a comprehensive review of the Minneapolis Police Department's policies, training, supervision, and use of force investigations. It will assess the effectiveness of the MPD's current systems of accountability and whether other mechanisms are needed to ensure constitutional and lawful policing. If the Justice Department concludes that there is reasonable cause to believe there is a pattern or practice of unconstitutional or unlawful policing, we will issue a public report of our conclusions. The Justice Department also has the authority to bring a civil lawsuit asking a federal court to provide injunctive relief that orders the MPD to change its policies and practices to avoid further violations. The Department of Justice will be unwavering in its pursuit of equal justice under law. The challenges we face are deeply woven into our history. They did not arise today or last year. Building trust between community and law enforcement will take time and effort by all of us. But we undertake this task with determination and urgency, knowing that change cannot wait.
Folks, in Louisiana, a white school bus driver no longer has a job after making a racially insensitive comment about George Floyd to a black student boarding the bus. The incident took place a couple of weeks ago. The student told his mother the bus driver scolded him after his face mask fell below his nose. The student said that he was out of breath from trying to catch the bus. The white bus driver admitted she told the student, "Since George Floyd, that's what you all say, but I don't see a knee on your neck." As soon as it reached School Superintendent Doris Vortier, she quickly announced the driver would no longer work for St. Bernard Parish School District. Some folks, y'all, just don't get it. It wouldn't be wise for you to be cracking jokes to black students in using George Floyd. Just saying, that's not smart at all. But then again, bigots have really never been too damn smart. All right, folks, let's go to North Carolina, where another African-American is dead, shot and killed by Elizabeth City police this morning while officers tried to serve him a search warrant. Andrew Brown was driving away from officers when they shot him. The city council has called an emergency meeting to discuss the incident. Keith Rivers, who is president of the NAACP there, is demanding the immediate release of the body cam footage. It is not yet clear if a video of the incident exists. We certainly will keep you updated with details when they emerge in this case. And so, again, just so unfortunate, another one of these shootings, which we talked about, of course, earlier, only 3 days in the last month where we've actually seen no shootings whatsoever. All right, folks, in Louisville, a Kentucky Metro police officer was repeatedly seen punching a protester in the head while he laid face down on the ground. In the now viral video, several officers are seen arresting Denover D. Garrett during a police brutality protest that took place on Sunday afternoon. While placing him in handcuffs, officers force him to the ground, and one of them begins punching him.
Bitch, I'm not in the motherfucking way. Shut up, boy.
Don't flex on me. Watching traffic. Watch your community.
if you need it.
Let's play something. Stop. Stop. Bring your hands together. Hey. Bring your hands together now. Okay, but if I want to get out of the car, I'm going to do it. I don't even...
Stop fucking hitting him, bitch!
Stop resisting. Stop resisting now.
Stop hitting him!
Put your hands behind your back.
Stop fucking hitting him!
Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back.
Stop hitting him!
I'm going to put you again.
Stop it! I got it on camera. Stop! Stop hitting him! You hit him.
Say this punch him in his fucking face.
Oh, shit.
Mom, look, Mom, I'm not moving. So if they touch me, I don't give a fuck.
I got it on camera.
Oh, shit. You punch him in his goddamn face for,
He fucking broke his glasses, you
glasses?
pieces of shit.
Standing on the sidewalk, why are you on the back?
An arrest citation stated Garrett was causing a disturbance in the middle of the street for about 30 minutes before his arrest. It also stated he resisted the officer's movements to put his hands together close enough to put handcuffs on. The bystander who recorded the video said she watched the arrest and did not see Garrett resisting police officers. Garrett was charged with disorderly conduct and resisting arrest. Folks, a heated exchange between Florida Democratic Congresswoman Representative Val Demings and Ohio Republican Congressman Jim Jordan took place on Tuesday during a House hearing. Jordan attempted to interrupt Demings as she spoke about law enforcement during a debate over the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act. The act aims to combat the surge in offenses against Asian Americans since the pandemic broke out. Demings was speaking out against an amendment Republicans had introduced to stop any defunding of the police, even though the bill legislation does not seek to do so. Watch the fireworks.
Mr. Chairman, I want to make it quite clear that this amendment is completely irrelevant. I served as a law enforcement officer for 27 years. It is a tough job, and good police officers deserve your support. You know, it's interesting to see my colleagues on the other side of the aisle support the police when it is politically convenient to do so. Law enforcement officers risk their lives every day. They deserve better, and the American people deserve. I have the floor, Mr. Jordan.
Lady has
What, did I strike a nerve? Law enforcement officers deserve better than to be utilized as pawns. And you and your colleagues are ashamed of yourself.
The gentlelady will suspend and the clock will be stopped. I want to admonish members. They must not interrupt someone who has the time.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a
simply
question?
Can't shout out. If you think that someone is saying,
I agree.
Mr. Jordan, you don't know what in the heck you're talking about. You know nothing about what law enforcement officers
I know about my motive.
And you're using them as pawns because it serves ridiculous political purposes.
Val, everyone must suspend. I am making the point. No one may shout out when someone else has the time. Not Mr. Gomert.
Question, Mr. Chairman.
Not Mr. Jordan. Nobody.
Not Mr. Cicilline.
Not Miss
Demings.
He didn't do that. But nobody.
Not Mr. Jordan.
Not Miss.
Nobody.
Cicilline. Okay, nobody. I agree with that. But
then how do we?
Everybody.
I have a question.
I will simply. There is no question. Nobody may shout out.
When you give a speech, Mr. Chairman, about motives and questioning motives, and then our motives are questioned, how do we address that?
The rules allow a request words
I have watched them live and die, and you know nothing about that. And to utilize them as political pawns.
I have a point of inquiry.
Off.
People
Mr. Chairman,
will
I have a point
address
of
comments
inquiry.
to the chair.
Mr. Chairman.
The rules do not permit shouting out when someone else has the time. The only thing you may do when someone else has the time is you may raise a point of order if you think it proper, and the chair will then rule on the
point of order, Mr. Chairman.
The gentleman will state his point of order.
So you gave us a lecture on people questioning our motives. When someone questions our motives, how do we address it when they're in the act of questioning our motives?
That is not a point of order.
Yes, it is.
That is not a point of order.
Mr. Chairman, may I continue, please?
That is not a point of order. Ms. Demings has the time, and the clock will resume. Gentlelady is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I'm glad to hear that my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are on the side of law enforcement now. Because I don't know where my colleagues on the other side of the aisle have been over the last 4 years, including on January 6th, when police officers who protect us every day were fighting for their lives because of the big lie that was told, and my colleagues on the other side of the aisle were silent. As one person after another person took the microphone and said, go down there and engage in combat, fight like hell. They used the bicycle racks as deadly missiles against the law enforcement officers that you all say you care about so much. And thank you, Mr. Cicilline, because you're absolutely right. The only person who voted to support local governments and pass legislation to support local governments that includes law enforcement were the Democratic members on this side of the aisle. But now today, you support law enforcement. Well, I'm delighted to know that. But don't support them when it's politically convenient for you to do so. Support them when they're under attack by people fighting them and spraying them and knocking them to the ground and beating them with poles, with carrying the American flags and pipes.
Unbelievable.
Mr. Chairman, I thank you, and I yield back.
Oh, my goodness. Jim Jordan, that's a grown black woman right there. You might want to leave her alone. All right, folks, let's go to Iowa, where a black man was shot in the neck by city Rapids police officers. He's getting an $8 million settlement, the largest amount for a police misconduct case in Iowa history. In 2016, Jereen Mitchell got into a scuffle with an officer during a traffic stop. The shooting left Mitchell paralyzed from the neck down. A grand jury declined to charge the officer in the case, but the police department has fired the officer as part of the settlement. The settlement still needs to be approved by the city council. No, it's kind of important. All right, folks, let's go to South Carolina, where a judge denies the motion to toss out a 20-year sentence to a convicted police officer who shot a black man in the back. Michael Slager, a former North Charleston police officer, pled guilty to murdering Walter Scott during a traffic stop in 2017. In his motion, Slager claimed he had ineffective counsel. In the judge's written decision, he said Slager attempted to blame the victim, and now he wants to blame his defense team and the trial judge. But Slager has no one to blame for his present predicament but himself. Slager is the architect of his own demise. You might remember in that particular case, there was a hung jury, and then he pled guilty to civil rights violations of Walter Scott. In the United States Senate, Vanita Gupta is now the third highest ranking official at the Department of Justice.
I would guess if the American people could give us a word of advice in the United States Senate, they would suggest that we do our best to work together, that we try to establish priorities and meet them, and that we try to bring to the new administration of President Joseph Biden the most competent, qualified people that we can to help our nation through this pandemic and our economic recovery. And it's in that spirit that I close the debate on Vanita Gupta to be the next Associate Attorney General of the United States.
All post-cloture time is expired. The question is on the nomination. Is there a sufficient second? There appears to be. The clerk will call the roll.
Are there any senators in the chamber wishing to vote or change his or her vote? If not, the yeas are 51, the nays are 49, and the nomination is confirmed.
Thank you, Madam President. First, I just want to say, before I move on a motion to discharge, it is really so good to have Vanita Gupta now installed as Associate Attorney General. She will be, to have someone with such a background in civil rights at this time in American history is so important and so vital to the country. And I'm so glad that the Senate has now approved her and she can do her vital job, including dealing with the systemic bias we've seen in policing and in law enforcement throughout the country.
The vote was 51 to 49. Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski was the only Republican to cross the aisle to vote for Vanita Gupta. Doesn't matter. She is now confirmed. All right, folks, speaking of the United States Senate, they had a committee hearing yesterday that dealt with the issue of the right to vote. It was called Jim Crow 2021, the latest assault on the right to vote. Well, Republicans were not too happy with that label. It really was a hearing that was all about Stacey Abrams. That's really who they were trying to attack. Then you had Louisiana Republican Senator John Kennedy. No, he's nothing like the late President John F. Kennedy. This dude is stuck on stupid. He actually thought he was going to corner Stacey Abrams. Want to see somebody get served?
You're against the Georgia bill, I gather. Is that right?
I'm against certain provisions of it, yes.
Okay, and I think you've called it a racist bill. Am I right?
I think there are provisions of it that are racist, yes.
Okay. Tell me specifically, just give me a list of the provisions that you object to.
I object to the provisions that remove access to the right to vote. It shortens the federal runoff period from 9 weeks to 4 weeks.
Okay.
It restricts the time a voter can request and return an absentee ballot application.
Right.
It requires that a voter have a photo identification or some other form of identification that they're willing to surrender in order to participate in the absentee ballot process.
If I can stop you, that's where they're going to not comparing signatures, but to voter ID?
Yes, sir. And as Ms. Eiffel has pointed out, we would become only the 4th state in the nation to require voters to put at risk their identity.
What else? What else?
It eliminates over 300 hours of Dropbox availability.
Okay, what else?
It bans nearly all out-of-precinct votes.
Bans what? I'm sorry?
It bans nearly all out-of-precinct votes.
Okay.
Meaning that if you get to a precinct and you are in line for 4 hours and you get to the end of the line and you are not there between 5 and 7 p.m.,
okay,
you have to start all over again.
Is that everything?
Yes. No, it is not. No, sir. It restricts the hours of operation because it now, under the guise of setting a standardized timeline, it makes it optional for counties that may be may not want to see expanded access to the right to vote. They can now limit their hours. Instead of those hours being from 7 to 7, they're now from 9 to 5, which may have an effect on voters who cannot vote during business hours, during early voting. It limits the voting
Okay, I get the idea.
I bet you do get the idea. That's why you shouldn't ask a really smart woman the question if you don't know the answer in advance. All right, folks, let's go to Georgia, where a group of pastors yesterday called for a statewide boycott of Home Depot. Here's Pastor Jamal Bryant speaking at the news conference.
The picture was so cool. My name is Pastor Jamal
It was horrible.
Harrison Bryant from New Birth Missionary Baptist Church.
Of all white men, nothing wrong with white men, but all white men in a room, sitting down or standing.
Okay, why is video playback on my computer? Why do I have a file that says video playback? Did y'all airdrop something to me? Okay, I don't understand that because, all right, we're just going to pick it up. We're going to do a pickup. Go.
Good afternoon. My name is Pastor Jamal Harrison Bryant from New Birth Missionary Baptist Church in Stonecrest, Georgia. I'm reminded of when Dr. King wrote a letter from the Birmingham jail, and he said to those who opposed him, "We are here because injustice is here." And that is the reason why we're standing outside of Home Depot, is because we feel grave injustice is taking place, not just across the street, but around the country, from failing to operate in integrity from a corporation. How one of the lead characters, albeit fictional, from the Avengers was Thor. And Thor's only superpower was that he had a hammer. That hammer, out of Norwegian mythology, suggested it was for defense and it was to bless. That hammer was to bless and it was for defense, but it never worked when it wasn't in his hand. The reality is that what is in the hands of the people is what make democracy work. What is in the hands of the people is what the electorate works on. It is, in fact, known as power to the people. In 1867, one of America's oldest corporations was Arm & Hammer. They said it was strong enough, but delicate enough to handle every room and every circumstance. As a consequence, that baking soda, that baking powder has, in fact, trust of the American people because it knows the strength of a hammer. Regrettably, all of Minnesota is collectively holding its breath.
My mother and my grandmother taught me the importance and power of voting.
All right, don't worry about it. We're going to cut that off at a certain point. All right, so here's what's going to happen. We're going to cut that off, then we're going to pick up to the early part of the interview there that we did with the other folks. Okay, let's see here. Give me 1 second. Okay, so we're going to come out of the interview thanking them. All right, folks, time to go to a break. When we come back, 5 years since the death of Prince, and we'll recognize that next on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
America is the only country founded on an idea, the radical idea that citizens could govern themselves. It was called the American Experiment because there was no reason to believe it would work. A republic, if you can keep it. Every generation has been called to defend and renew the promise of America. For some, it was on the battlefield. For others, it was on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Now, the battle has come to the steps of the Capitol itself. Democracy is under assault like no time since 1860. We have a choice. Look away or stand up and fight. It's not about conservative or liberal. It's about freedom versus autocracy. We didn't choose this moment, but history has chosen us. Which side are you on?
The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Hi, my name is LaToya Luckett.
Yo, it's your man Dion Cole from Blackish, and you're watching
Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Stay woke.
Folks, 5 years ago on this day, the world was shocked. We learned of the death of Prince. He passed away, of course, accidental fentanyl overdose at the age of 57. Okay, what the hell was that? Start over. I need you to fix the iPad. Okay, it doesn't matter what the fuck happened back there. This is going to be airing. So I need to fix the iPad. Yeah, but I'm saying it doesn't matter. No, I'm saying it doesn't matter. What's going on air? See right there, blackout's right there again.
I'm just letting you know it's not a video playback.
Okay, it has to be something because this is the preview right here. So roll that video back. It has to be something.
Anthony, it gotta be something up there.
When it blacks out like that, it's a frame rate issue. First of all, what's the file extension? All right, are we ready? All right, let me scroll down. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. It's been 5 years since iconic entertainer Prince passed away of an accidental fentanyl overdose at the age of 57. Folks all across the world were shocked and stunned at the announcement of his death. Today, Paisley Park, Prince's home, has been turned into a museum, allowed a select group of 1,400 fans to visit the singer's creative sanctuary. For the first time in years, the urn carrying his ashes has returned to the atrium to be viewed by the public. All day, the legendary Purple Rain hitmaker's name has been trending on Twitter. Of course, we certainly, our thoughts and prayers go out to the family of Prince Rogers Nelson and, of course, his fans all across the world. Folks, the public memorial for DMX is going to be held at Brooklyn's Barclays Center on Saturday. New York State COVID-19 regulations restrict arenas like Barclays Center to 10% capacity. The event is going to be closed to the public, but will broadcast via live stream. DMX died, of course, this month at the age of 50, and so many people have been remembering him, and so his family, they announced they were going to have that particular public ceremony. All right, folks, got to announce some good news for us. We have been working for the past 4 months on this amazing project with the folks at Facebook. And the project really is, they came to me and they said, hey, you want to do the 6-part series? What do you want to do? I said, I want to host a series of intergenerational conversations. These conversations would pit young activists with elders and for them to be able to sit down and dialogue. Folks, the first one on Monday is going to be Dr. Janetta B. Cole, of course, President Emerita of Bennett College and Spelman College. And she's sitting down with Tiffany Lofton. Other conversations include Chuck D., Chris Payne, Alexis Herman, and Brittany Packnett, Bree Newsom, Reverend Dr. William J. Barber. We also have Charles Cobb sitting down talking with Philip Agnew. I mean, I'm talking about just these really unbelievable conversations. And, of course, we also have Ambassador Andrew Young sitting down talking with Cliff Albright, the co-founder of Black Voters Matter. It's going to debut on our right here in Roland Unfiltered on our channels on Monday. Here is the first promo of the first intergenerational conversation. Dr. Cole and Tiffany Lofton.
I believe that people our age have lost the ability to focus the discipline on the art of organizing.
It takes all of y'all to represent your generation. The African proverb says, the young go fast. The elders know the way.
That is so freaking dope.
What a powerful combination. The challenges, there's so many of them and they're complex, and we need to be moving to address them. But I'm able to say, watch out, Tiffany. I know this wrong.
Like you said, giving folks the wisdom and we can go fast together. Mm-hmm. It happens in a lot of spaces. I don't think it happens enough.
All right, folks. Trust me, looking forward to that great conversation. You don't want to miss it. All right, folks, that's it for us. If y'all want to support us here at Roland Martin Unfiltered, please do so by joining our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar you give goes to support what we do here, bringing you the kind of news and information you're not going to get anywhere else. Folks, Cash App, $RM Unfiltered, PayPal.me/R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo.com, it's /RM Unfiltered, Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com, and of course, you can send us a money order to New Vision Media Inc., 1625 K Street Northwest, Suite 400, Washington, D.C., 2006. But that is not it for us, y'all. Today, 20 years ago, my wife Jackie and I got married, and she put together this video here. Now, look, we probably gonna get knocked off Facebook and YouTube because I chose to use a Willie Hutchins song, I Choose You. Y'all, he is a Houstonian. Kill the music, please. He is a Houstonian. And so, hey, that's what I do. But anyway, here's a slideshow she put together. Hope y'all enjoy. All right, folks, and so happy anniversary, Jay Hood. Oh, Reverend Dr. Jackie Hood Martin. All right, folks, that's it. I got to go. I always do chocolate cake for our anniversary and Valentine's Day, so I got to go have some anniversary cake. I'll see you guys tomorrow right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Holla!